welcome to episode 12 of Spiritual Practices for Tough Times. Wow, episode 12. Can you believe that? Well, thank you for joining me and Gray Squirrel and Lovey Dovey and our tech team today as we gather for another episode as we continue our journey with these tough times and our normal lives and all of it together. I hope you're doing well today, wherever you are, and it's a privilege to be in your house, in your living room, or in your kitchen, or outside on the deck, or wherever you find yourselves. I hope that you are doing as well as you can and being safe today. As we begin our time, I always like to light a candle to remind myself and you that there is a sacred light that's within us and around us that holds us. And in particular, we light this candle for all those who are in the midst of great suffering because of COVID-19. Those who are in the hospitals and the ICU rooms, those who are at home self-isolating, for our first responders, for our emergency staff at hospitals, doctors and nurses and orderlies, and everybody, we light that candle that our prayers are with them. I always love to have a cup of tea with you, a cup of jasmine tea as we begin our time. I hope you have a drink for this time. It always is for me this symbol of communion, that even though we're separated across the digital divide, that we are still connected by this source that holds and breathes and moves in all of us. As we begin today, I'd like to invite us into a time just of centering, of being present to our bodies, of our hearts and minds and our surroundings. One of the simplest ways that we can center ourselves is by becoming conscious of our breath. If you ever find yourself in a tough situation, maybe you're at line waiting to get groceries and you're feeling nervous, or maybe the kids around you are bothering you after a long day, they're bored, you're trying to get work done, maybe something else is happening. One of the simplest ways that you can bring yourself back into your body and present moment is just by counting your breaths for 15 seconds, going 1, 2, 3. And I guarantee you that after those 15 seconds, whatever is bothering you will be gone for a few seconds before it comes back, or maybe even longer, and that you'll find a different perspective. So what I'm going to do now is invite us into a guided meditation with our breath, that we follow our breath and that we let go into this moment. And I'll begin it by ringing our meditation bell, and then I'll invite you to close your eyes and find yourself in your body where you're sitting. So please, I invite you to just close your eyes and feel your body. Feel your feet on the ground. Feel your back against your chair or cushion that you're sitting on. And whatever is happening for you right now, whatever feelings you might have had before you began watching this episode, whatever's waiting for you, I invite you now just to let it go as you take a breath in, feeling that air come through your nose and down your throat and filling your chest. And then exhale. I invite you to find your own pace of breathing, what's comfortable for you, what helps you bring you into your body. And as if you breathe in, you start to feel that your chest is tight. You feel this tension. Imagine as you breathe out that you're just letting go of this tension and the tightness in your chest. Maybe you feel it in your shoulders or neck, maybe the back of your legs. You find yourself clenching your hands, just gently let them go and let them rest easy on your lap. Breathe in. And as you breathe out, let go. Know that there is a presence within you and around you. There's this breathing life, breathing with you and through you and for you, and it holds you. Allow your breath to let go into this breath of life. And if you start to become distracted and feel your mind clenching or clinging to some thoughts or plans or emotions well up, or there's some sounds around you that bother you, don't judge them. Don't be hard on yourself for this happening. Just non-violently, gently and compassionately come back to your breath. Breathing in and breathing out. I'm going to be quiet for a few seconds here and just let you breathe. Let you be present. Let you be here now. And maybe as you are consciously aware of your breath, as you let go of each thought and emotion and sensation, breath by breath by breath, you start to feel this expanding awareness in your heart region, your chest. You feel an intimate presence that you can't explain intellectually. You feel expansiveness and warmth. You feel presence, maybe even feels loving and caring and compassionate. Maybe you even feel no matter what's happening in your life, you are okay right now and right here. Take one more breath. Observe maybe now how you're breathing a little slower, a little deeper. You are here. We are here. Life is here. And as you gently and slowly open your eyes, do you see beauty or feel joy or gratitude right where you're at? How do you feel in your body now? Is your mind a bit quieter? Do you feel that underlying sense of calm that's like a flow? I hope you do. I really appreciate being with you in this gentle movement of our breath. It's a very simple thing to do. And sometimes it's the most simple things that we can do that bring us back into this present moment and back into our bodies, which are a gift, even when they might not be working the way we want them to, and back into life. Because even in the midst of COVID-19, we have life. We have abundance. We have each other even as we're socially and physically distancing. And so spiritual practices are a wonderful way to help take us from our monkey mind and from all our worries and anxieties and sort of let go. that's why I'd like to explore with you today how spiritual practices help us become receptive. They help us become receptive. They are help us to be ready or develop a readiness to let go into the flow. I'm always reminded of the flow when I get up in the morning and I go outside and look at the amazing garden that my partner is tending to, and also then my garlic, which is coming up. There are so many bulbs that we planted in the fall that are starting to come up. And this is what we're seeing in this video as we go outside and look at the bulbs that are coming up now. Nature, in particular for me, reminds me that there is a flow to life. That life's not about control, and life is not about a linear direction that if we just do the right 10 things in a row, that everything will be peachy, hunky-dory, and okay. Another name for God could be flow. Or as Richard Rohr says, God is another name for reality, and that's the big R reality. That all of reality surrounding us is this sacred presence. Or another thing I like to say about this word God is a verb, not a noun. God is not an object that we can hold on to, an object that we can control, or an object if we just have the right beliefs, everything's okay. God is a verb. God is this unfolding action. Or another way to look at it is God is a direction. And not a linear direction, as David Steindl-Rast says. God is this direction. And in some ways, when we feel this direction, we feel this belonging. And one way to say that maybe God is another word for infinite belonging. And when we feel this belonging, we feel a sense of purpose, and we feel a sense of flow, and we have a direction for the moment that we are in, moment by moment by moment. So in many ways, when we look at spiritual practices, they're here to help us feel this reality, to belong to this flow, to belong to the direction, to find relationship at an intimate level with all of reality and life. Anthony DeMello describes this really wonderfully in why we have spiritual practices in this brief exchange between a wise teacher and a disciple. It goes like this. Disciple, is there anything I can do to make myself enlightened? Teacher, as little as you can do to make the sun rise in the morning. Disciple, then of what use are the spiritual exercises you prescribe? Teacher, to make sure that you are not asleep when the sun begins to rise. In many ways, all these talks that I'm having with you about spiritual practices and meditation and breathing and yoga and knitting meditation and mindful walking and all these different things, you may be wondering, well, what are they about? Why do we do them? Are they really important? Because truthfully, church has never taught us these things. Organized religion, in most instances, in particular in the Christian lineage, They've taught us if we believe the right thing, if we do the right thing, if we're good people, then that's what religion's about. But in reality, the real gift that the person of Jesus gave us, and then a lot of our Christian lineage, are that we have these spiritual practices so that we are awake to the sunrises. We are awake to the daffodils that are coming up. We are awake to each other's suffering, and we don't ignore when other people are suffering, but we are there to be in service. We're awake to the beauty and the challenges and the joys and the miracle and the gift of life. That's what spiritual practices are for, that we wake up. Shinzen Young, who is is both an author and a scientist of enlightenment, explains why we meditate for these reasons.
Meditation optimizes 5 fundamental dimensions of human happiness. The first dimension is reducing suffering, the ability to experience unavoidable pain with less problem. The second is elevation of fulfillment, the ability to experience even small pleasures with enormous satisfaction. The third dimension, where meditation impacts, is self-understanding. It's actually helpful to understand yourself at a psychological level, but where meditation really shines is to understand who you are at the deepest level. The fourth dimension is meditation will help you make objective changes in behavior. So if there's something you're doing that you need to stop doing, or something you should be doing that you're procrastinating or putting off, you can use meditation skills to behave more skillfully in the world. Reduce suffering, elevate fulfillment, understand yourself at all levels, including the deepest, improve behavior, and ultimately to find within yourself a spirit of serving or contributing to the happiness of others that comes from a spontaneous love. And actually, that spirit of love and service is a consequence of success in the other 4 dimensions. As you suffer less, are more fulfilled, as you understand who you are, and as you have a handle on changing how you carry yourself, all of that sums up ultimately in how you contribute to making this world a better place.
How does that sit with you? How does that work for you? I think those are some wonderful reasons and actually practical things that speak to us why it's important to have spiritual practices. I know we talk about that every time, but in a way, one of the challenges for you at home is what will you do after we're done this episode? It really takes an ongoing practice, an ongoing way to help cultivate how we suffer less, how we find more fulfillment, how we greater self-understanding. And the depth of self-understanding of who we are is that we are this sacred reality. Even in our mistakes and our failures, our successes, that deep down, we are the flow. We are part of this gratitude and gift of life. And when we discover that, it allows us to modify our behavior to let go of things that don't really work for us anymore, or society's put on us, or religion's put on us. And then finally, we are touched by who we are, which is really another great name for God is spontaneous love. The spontaneous love is coming up right now in nature, in spring. It's even coming up in the death of of winter and fall. It's this cycle, spontaneous love. And we do that, then we want to share spontaneous love. We want to have this spontaneous service for others. And so, in many ways, what our world has taught us are some wonderful things. We've learned, like from Malcolm Gladwell, that it takes 10,000 hours to become okay at something. And so right now, as the kids are at home and they're struggling with their parents, and maybe there's some conflict around how to get their coursework done, well, kids learn to write and do arithmetic and all sorts of things. It takes 10,000 hours. We were never taught in church or in other places of our religious life that maybe it takes 10,000 hours of letting go, of breathing, of a spiritual practice so that we can become good at some of these things that Shinzeng Young talked about. In this Headspace video, we also learn that spiritual practices or meditation or mindfulness, I'm interchanging some of these things, is not about just for ourselves, but again, it's about how do we enter this flow? How do we become receptive to life? We hear this in the story of the impatient yogi.
When we're training in meditation, it's important that our good intentions extend beyond the simple act of closing our eyes. In fact, there's a really funny old story about a very impatient yogi meditating in his cave. Wondering what the yogi was up to, a traveller passing by asked him, excuse me, do you mind if I stop in? The yogi, being very disciplined, kept his eyes shut and continued without saying a word. Thinking the yogi must be a little hard of hearing, the traveller said a little louder, excuse me, do you mind if I come in? Eventually the yogi opened his eyes and said, can't you see? I'm trying to meditate. Apologising, the woman went on her way. But she hadn't got very far before she started to think, I wonder what kind of meditation he's doing. So she returned to find the yogi sitting in quiet contemplation. Excuse me, she asked, what sort of meditation is this? The yogi, letting out a big sigh, said, I'm meditating on patience. The woman said, oh, okay, interesting, thanks, and left once again. So the yogi returned to his meditation. As the woman continued her journey, she found herself thinking, wow, patience. I could really do with some of that. I wonder if I should ask him for some instruction. So once more she went back to the yogi's cave. But so infuriated by all the interruptions, this time the yogi jumped up and screaming and shouting chased the traveller out of the cave. Clearly, training the mind is about much more than sitting still with our eyes closed. It's about bringing a gentle and flexible approach to our practice, and as a consequence, into the world around us. The conditions may not always be easy, but the journey's about embracing them, making these so-called obstacles part of our practice. The practice of resting the mind in awareness, at ease with ourselves and at ease with the world around us.
Wouldn't you want that? Be truthful, I want that. Just so you know, this is sort of like not a warning, I don't know what the best thing is to say, is that I'm no expert on this. I am just like you and everybody else. I have my moments of impatience. I have great moments where waves of anger or envy or jealousy or tiredness or all sorts of things take me over, and I get swept away from them and caught up in them, and I'm like that yogi running around screaming either in my head or after people, and I'm not at ease. I'm not present to myself or the world or to the beautifulness of reality, no matter what the obstacles are around. You see, COVID-19 is sort of bringing up to a head like these huge obstacles. Our lives have changed. Our routines are not normal anymore. Even as we're trying to find a new normal, we don't know what the future looks like. But spiritual practices are here so that we don't become these, what most people sometimes think of spiritual people, is that they're sort of these self-absorbed, eccentric, selfish people that are looking after their own happiness. No. It's about how that we can find and let go into a natural ease and a natural rhythm that's already within our own bodies, within our households and is always present in nature. In this next video from Green Renaissance, a wonderful videography couple from South Africa filmed this man who talks about finding rhythm and flow in music and in nature.
You can find rhythm everywhere. Pulse and cycles and nature and moon phases. It has a rhythm. It's not like it's a thing that you can see, and it's not like a thing that you can touch. It's just a thing you can either feel or hear. Music. It's one of the most mysterious of all the things that we can experience as humans, I think. I've been a musician for a long time, and I've been in a lot of very loud environments, and I like the idea of getting away from the city and finding a retuning, a rebalancing of sorts. Nature does that. There's a specific rootedness that you get through music. In nature, I feel similar. Rooted, balanced, connected. I think people are always looking for connection. We have the capacity to be more connected to each other than ever before, but we're less in touch with each other than ever before because of it. So, it's a paradox. Social media plays a big role there because, yes, we can, see what everyone's up to, but we're doing it from our little isolated room by ourselves. It's not an actual real interaction on a human level. And the very tool that you're supposed to be able to use to simplify things complicates it. That's the irony, I think. It's something that is a constant challenge. Spend less time on your phone and connect with people you love, right? That's really it.
And paradoxically, that's what we're all yearning for in this COVID-19, how we're not connecting with people the way we used to. And we're realizing it, we're really grateful that we have the technology that you and I can connect, and we can connect over Zoom and other people. But one of the things that's coming up from this crisis and these tough times is that I think I realize we've taken for granted all those times that we could gather. And even those times we gather when we're not present and we're in our heads. And I loved what he said about how nature and music for him helps him to rebalance and to retune and to root back in. In so many ways, a spiritual practice is just that. A spiritual practice is to help us retune to that sacred flow of life that's in you and me and all around us. It helps us to rebalance, to determine what's really important and who are we and who am I and how do I live in the world. And if we can start to create time each day in our lives, maybe only 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 20 minutes or a couple times a day, what will happen is I think we'll find that we suffer less. It doesn't take the suffering away, but the suffering has less of an impact. We'll find more fulfillment in the small things of life, the really small things. A cup of tea, a beautiful flower, a conversation with a loved one. We'll discover our deepest being, and then we'll want to give it away. How does that sound to you? Well, it's something for you to think about or practice or be with. And as we end our time, I'd like just to have a final closing guided meditation with you. It's where we'll sit on a riverbank. We'll hear the sound of the water. We'll imagine that we're in nature. And then when we get caught in any thoughts or anything, we'll imagine that they're like little paper boats or sticks on the water. I don't know if you ever did that when you were a kid, float little sticks down the streams. I'm older now. Younger, I think kids still love that, but we're a different generation where we used to just take sticks and play with them. Do you remember those times? We made them into everything. Well, just remember the stick is your thought or sensation or something has bothered you or you're impatient. And if you jump onto it, you just come back to your breath and let go of it. So let us have that final meditation. You might want to close your eyes. I'll ring the meditation bell just as a way to begin our time together. So I invite you to imagine that you're sitting on a luscious bank by a stream or a gentle river. Just take a deep breath in as you imagine it there. Imagine you hear the gurgling sound of the stream or the brook. Imagine you feel the dappled sunlight falling on your face and body that is going in between the trees. You hear the sound of nature around you, maybe of crickets and a frog and the wind blowing through the leaves. And imagine that you just feel so supported and so present as you sit by the stream. You feel the earth below you. You feel the sky above you. And I invite you just to breathe in. Focus your attention on your breath. Just absorb all the energy of being by the gentle brook. For this moment, there's not a care in the world. For this moment, there's not a right or wrong thing you need to do. For this moment, you are safe. For this moment, you're letting go and consenting to the bigger flow of life that is you, that flows through you and moves you beyond you. Just imagine all your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, all the noise around you are just flowing past on that brook. Now if you cling to one and become really attached to it and jump on it and start going down the brook and it becomes a torrent and there's a waterfall coming and there's all sorts of things happening, just consent to let go and come back to your breath. You see, after a couple breaths that you're back by the gentle brook and stream. Now some thoughts are really strong and they may come up over and over. It's okay. Don't judge it. Don't judge yourself. Don't become impatient with the process. Remember to always just consent to letting go and coming back to your breath. Take a couple more breaths. You are here. I am here. We are here. God is here as a flow that will infinitely hold us through all these tough times. Now, gently open your eyes. Again, I invite you, is there a moment of beauty around you? A moment of joy? Or do you feel a sense of warm gratitude? Just be with it. And maybe later today, you might want to try this breathing exercise again, or another spiritual practice that is part of your life. And I invite you to do that, to experience what happens. So thank you once again for joining me, for being present, for being on this journey. I hope as you continue your day that you are blessed, that you are safe, that you are well, that no matter what obstacle comes or what moment or gift comes, that you will flow with it. So take care until we meet again, and many blessings.